What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Vinyl Den, your channel for record collecting by record collectors. I'm Nick. It's Tuesday. Time to check out some new releases that are coming out this Friday, October 10th. It's about 450 albums that are coming out this week. I got 10 on my list for today. There's a bunch of links down below. You got links for the Vinyl Den Facebook group, for the merch page, for the Spotify and Apple Music playlist that I put together every week, and the Patreon page. So make sure you check all that out. Like always, if you enjoyed the episode, make sure you give me a thumbs up, hit that subscribe button down below, and make sure you hit that notification bell so you're notified every time I release new episodes. Like I said in the intro, there's about 450 albums that are coming out this week, but I'm only going to cover 10 of them today. So for something you're looking forward to that I'll have on here, make sure you drop me a comment down below. Let me know what albums you're looking forward to grabbing this week. And like always, if you're unable to find these in your local brick and mortar stores, they should all be available online. I'll put links down below in the comment section for them. You can also always go over to the Vinyl Den store on Amazon. All the pre-orders are on there. There's new releases. There's deals on records. All sorts of cool stuff to check out. So I'm really interested in this first release, but it is a little pricey, I think, so that's kind of what gives me a little bit of pause. This is John Lennon, Power to the People, live at the 101 concert. So this is a 2 LP release. It was recorded on August 30th, 1972 at Madison Square Garden. It's going to run you about $65. So the two performances that John Lennon played were in front of a combined audience of 40,000. But what you're getting in this release is not the full 2 shows that were played on that day, which is really unfortunate because when I first saw this release, I thought that's what this was. I thought you were getting the 2 full performances, because what makes these 2 performances really special is that after John Lennon left the Beatles, they were the only 2 full concerts that John Lennon ever played. And these shows also marked the last performance that John and Yoko would play together. Everything on here has all been remixed, re-engineered. I'm sure it does sound fantastic, but what you're getting in here is like a combination of the 2 shows all into one performance. And for $65, I think it is a little pricey. I mean, there is some additional stuff in here. There's like an 8-page booklet. There's a 6-panel news print poster that comes along with it. There's also a couple of postcards that comes with it. It's housed in this nice deluxe slipcase. Like, the presentation of it is really nice. It looks like a really nice release. I just wish it would have been the full, 2 performances from that day. Especially when it comes to something like this, which was such an iconic performance from John. Like I said, it was in front of 40,000 people and ended up raising, millions of dollars for disabled children. It was a huge performance. And like I said, it was not only his only performance after leaving the Beatles, of a full concert, but it was also the last time that him and Yoko played together. So it really marked like the end, live-wise, of this huge chapter in John's performing career. Even at $65, I still might grab a copy of it. We'll see what I end up doing when Friday comes around. Or, I don't know how many copies of this they press. So if there are copies available when we start seeing holiday sales roll around, maybe I'll wait and grab a copy of it then. So you got that coming out this week, and then you've also got Horses by Patti Smith getting reissued. Came out back in 1975 as her debut studio album. 2 LP release is a 50th anniversary release. It's going to run you about $34. All new, the remaster from the original analog tapes, and this is one of those albums where, Patti really helped lay the foundation for what was going on, like the early stages of punk music in the middle part of the 70s, at least here in the U.S. Even though it did utilize a lot of those more simplistic, elements of punk music, stylistically, it was a lot more experimental than a lot of other bands, in the early punk scene were doing. And if you listen to an album like Horses, I think you really hear Patti's influence in, like I said, at least the U.S. punk music and the U.S. punk scene and moving forward. And I think having John Cale as the producer on this album, of course, from the Velvet Underground, is what helped give it some of that more avant-garde kind of feel. And this would be an album that would not only be influential just to punk music here in the U.S., but even into the late 80s and through the 90s. There's a lot of other alternative rock artists that were all very heavily influenced, especially by this album. I'm glad to see with them doing an anniversary release of this album, not just putting out this album, just reissuing it as a remastered release. There's some actually additional material on here. So the second LP is all unreleased outtakes and rarities. It's a great album. It's definitely a good one to add to your collection. There's also the new album from the Dropkick Murphys getting released this week. So this is For the People. This actually got released digitally back on July 4th, but it's coming out on vinyl and CD this week. It's their 13th studio album. It's a 2 LP release. It's got a D-side etching on there. It's going to run you about $38. So this is the follow-up to their 2022 and 2023 albums, This Machine Still Kills Fascists and Okama Rising. And both of those were a little bit different kind of albums for the band. I mean, first off, they didn't have Albar on them, which he's been the co-vocalist of the band ever since the second album came out. And they both utilized unused lyrics from Woody Guthrie. They built these acoustic songs around those lyrics. They're both good albums, but I felt like they were just kind of missing something. Unfortunately, Al Barr doesn't make a full return on this album either. He's just on one track on here. He did take a hiatus from the band while he's taking care of his ailing mother, so he's yet to make a full return to the band yet, but hopefully he will at some point. I've been holding off on listening to this album until I can hear it on vinyl. I do have a copy of it on pre-order. So what you're getting this week is a little bit different than the version that's been out since July. I think there's 4 or 5. Yeah, there's 5 additional tracks that are going to be on the physical version of this album compared to the streaming version that's been out since July, which I think is a big bonus. I'd like to see other artists do that. If you're not going to release an album, on streaming and a physical version at the same time, I'd like to see them do something a little bit extra on that physical version when it comes out. There is a colored version of this album. It's like a light bluish kind of color. It's like $10 more than the standard black version, so I'm just going to pick up the black version of this album. So I do have that one on pre-order. You've also got the new album from Yellowcard coming out, Better Days. It's their 11th studio album. It's going to be on light blue vinyl. It's going to be about $24. This is the band's first album since 2016, and the first album since they reformed back in 2022. The band's gone through a bunch of lineup changes since they formed back in 1997, but really since 2012, they kind of had the same lineup, other than losing their drummer, which they haven't permanently replaced yet. I think they've replaced him with just a touring member. So I think this is the 4th album that they've all done together. I think they're one of the more unique sounding rock bands that come into the mainstream in the 2000s with a full-time violinist. It definitely adds a completely different layer to their music that a lot of rock music in the last 25 years really hasn't had. And they're one of those bands I kind of slept on for a really long time. It really wasn't until they reformed in 2022 that I started kind of going back through and listening to more of the music. It's one I'll at least add to my list to check out this week. A couple other anniversary releases that are coming out this week. The first one is the self-titled debut album from Nathaniel Rateliff and the Night Sweats. Came out back in 2015. It's a 2 LP release, 10-year anniversary. It's going to be on translucent black vinyl. It's kind of pricey though. It's going to run you about $48. But I've long said this is, in my opinion, one of the best rock albums of the 2010s. It was this fusion of like southern rock with like classic soul. I think it really kind of helped redefine what rock music was in the 2010s. The band's released, I think, 3 studio albums since this one came out, and there's been some good stuff on them, but I don't think anything's really compared to the magic that they had on that first album. The album ended up peaking at number 17 on the Billboard 200. It had 2 singles of a chart in the top 50. I just wish this one was about $10 cheaper. I probably would have grabbed a copy of it because pushing $50, and that's one thing I've said about records for a while now, is once we're starting to see new releases be, $45 to $50, I think it's really kind of what my cutoff is for, at least for new releases, especially when there's really nothing new. At least I'm not seeing anything new on this release other than it's on colored vinyl. If there's no extra material on there, there's really no reason for you to charge that much for this release. But it is coming out this week, like I said, about a couple of the other releases. If I can grab it on sale at some point somewhere, maybe I will, but that is coming out this week. Then you also got the 50th anniversary release of Blues for Allah coming out from the Grateful Dead, released back in 1975. It's going to about $25. It's all newly remastered, and this is the album where they started having this like jazz fusion a couple albums earlier, but they started to be a little more experimental with their sound with this one. They incorporated in a little bit more like Middle Eastern influence on this album, and it kind of bled into some of the lyrics on the album also. And it really worked because when they released this album, it ended up being their highest charting album to date. It peaked at number 12 on the Billboard 200. It's an album that I still consider probably one of their best albums, at least one of their best albums of the 70s. I think it was really this album that proved, at least to me, that the Grateful Dead was a lot more than just that jam band image that everyone has of it. A couple really fascinating jazz releases that are coming out this week. The first one was Quebec, the complete 45 sessions. So this actually came out back in 2005, but it was recorded between 1959 and 1962. It's a 3 LP release. This is from the Tone Poet series. So this is all mastered by Kevin Gray from the original analog tapes. It's pressed to RTI. This thing's gonna be kind of pricey though. It's gonna run you about $73. But keep in mind that it is 3 LPs, so you're getting a lot of material on this album. So Ike really rose to fame in the 40s, playing with artists like Cab Calloway, some other of those like big band artists. He ended up doing 2 stints in prison for drugs in the 50s. It really cut his career short. And in the late 50s, once he was out, he tried to make a comeback, and Blue Note was really unsure of what the public's response was going to be. So instead of releasing entire albums for the music, what they did was they released this jukebox series on 45s. Unfortunately, his comeback was short-lived because he would die of lung cancer in 1963, so there wasn't a whole lot of material that he had to release. So in 2005, this was all compiled and put together to do one big release of all this music that he had recorded. I get it, it's a lot of money, $73 is a lot to drop on a release, but this is a great album. It's available on streaming. I highly recommend checking out if you're a jazz fan. So you got that one coming out this week. Then you've also got Dizzy Gillespie, Sonny Stitt, and Sonny Rollins releasing Sunny Side Up. Came out back in 1959 as part of the Verve Vault series. These are all mastered from the original analog tapes. It's pressed to optimal. It's going to run you about $28. And this is one of the better improvisational jazz albums of the later part of the 50s. It was recorded almost like a jam session. And while I don't think they really played together all that much, you going through this album and listening to the music they recorded, they've got a lot of good chemistry together, and I think it really kind of shows the quality of the musicians on here and the real greatness that all of them had. And to be honest, I haven't heard anything about this Verve Vault series, so I'm not sure how new this series is, but $28 I think is a great price for jazz music. So I don't know if they're doing this to kind of rival the Blue Note Classic series, which is priced kind of similarly. Anytime you're getting great jazz music like this at a good price, I'm always there for that. The next release is kind of interesting because I thought it came out last week, but this is Franz Ferdinand. You could have it so much better. Came out back in 2005 as a second studio album, 20th anniversary release. It's got an orange vinyl. It's running about $39. So I saw this listed a bunch of other places having a release date for last week, but then I didn't see it actually come out last week, and now I'm seeing it released this week. So I don't know. So Franz Ferdinand, they're a Scottish band, so I don't know. I'm assuming this is pressed in Europe, so maybe there's a week's delay from the time it's released over there to the time it makes it over here to the US. This is a popular album when it was released to hit number 8 on the Billboard 200. And Franz Ferdinand, they were one of those bands that I was always surprised that they weren't even bigger than they were, especially since they were one of those bands that kind of helped spur some of that, indie rock kind of post-punk revival in the 2000s. I guess I should say that I'm not sure if they were bigger in other parts of the world. I just know at least here in the US, I really only heard them for like 1 or 2 albums, and then that was kind of it. But they're a band that's definitely worth checking out if you're unfamiliar with them. At least checking out this album. It's a great album. I think it's one of the only albums. This and their debut, I think, are the only 2 albums I ever listened to, at least in full, from the band. And you also got Madonna, Veronica, Electronica coming out. So this was released back in July. I think this is a reissue, not a reissue, but like a restock other releases that came out back in July. But this is a 2 LP remix album. It's going to be on clear vinyl. It's going to run about $24. So this is a project that she started putting together back in, I think it was 1998 when she started working on this. And the name of the album comes from her Ray of Light alter ego. But what you're getting on this album, there's 8 club remixes on here. It also does include the unreleased demo for Gone, Gone, Gone. Commercially, it didn't do great, which, you'd think Madonna albums would still sell pretty well even in 2025, but it did hit, I think it was number 25 on the Billboard dance charts. And maybe because it was a dance remix album, maybe that's kind of what, stunted it a little bit. I'm sure it has something to do with it because even when she released, was it Madam X, I think it was when she was at like 2019 or 2020 when she released that. Even that charted really well, sold really well. So I'm sure it was just because it was just a remix album. This is one of those releases that, had been rumored for literally decades that she finally got around to putting out this year. Well, that's all good for you today, guys. Thanks for checking the show out. Make sure you drop me a comment down below. Let me know what you're looking forward to grabbing this week. Like I said, I've already got that Dropkick Murphys on pre-order. I'll probably grab that Patti Smith also. I'd like to grab a copy of that like Quebec, but, $73 is pretty pricey, and if I do that, it's probably going to be my vinyl purchases for the next week or two. There's some other ones I've got some question marks next to, but I don't know. Let me know what you guys are looking forward to. Like always, if you enjoyed the episode, make sure you give me a thumbs up. Hit that subscribe button down below. That's all I got. Until next time, keep on spinning. Peace.